Russia's economic story is now inseparable from its military ambitions. Under Vladimir Putin's leadership, the Kremlin has made one thing clear: war takes precedence over welfare. For the first time since Putin came to power, military spending has overtaken social programs in the national budget. The government has allocated 16.7 trillion rubles to defense and security in 2025, more than 60% higher than the 10 trillion rubles set aside for education, healthcare, and other public services combined. This record-breaking focus on military spending, accounting for 6.2% of GDP, has pushed the economy onto a war footing. Even as oil and gas revenues decline due to sanctions and falling global prices, the government has prioritized defense over improving the lives of its citizens. Taxes on businesses and the general population have increased to fund this forever war, further burdening an already struggling economy. The big question is there a way out? Can one of the most resource-rich nations on the planet rebuild its economy, restore public trust, and reclaim its position on the global stage? Or has the damage gone too far, leaving Russia to languish as a cautionary tale of mismanaged ambition? Truth be told, this isn't just about sanctions. Russia's economic downfall began long before the West imposed restrictions. The over-reliance on energy exports, neglect of technological advancement, and endemic corruption were cracks in the foundation, now blown wide open by the Ukraine war. Has Russia's leadership sacrificed its economic future for short-term geopolitical gains? More importantly, how are ordinary Russians coping with the fallout of policies that benefit so few while impoverishing so many? In this video, we're going to explore it all. We'll break down the key causes of Russia's economic collapse, from sanctions to policy failures. We'll show how this crisis is affecting ordinary people, giving a human face to the statistics. And finally, we'll discuss whether there's hope for Russia's economy, or if it's doomed to remain a cautionary tale for years to come. This is the story of the ruined economy of Russia, and it's one you don't want to miss.
The European Union and its partners are working to cripple Putin's ability to finance his war machine. We are resolved to continue imposing massive costs on Russia.
Sanctions have been a primary driver behind Russia's economic downfall, squeezing the life out of its once thriving economy. These measures imposed by Western nations in response to Russia's actions in Ukraine have effectively cut the country off from global financial systems and markets. The results have been devastating. Russia's GDP contracted by 2.1% in 2022, reversing years of growth, while oil revenues dropped by an alarming 42% within a year. On top of this, over $300 billion in foreign reserves, previously held in Western banks, were frozen, leaving Russia without a financial safety net. The loss of European markets, once the largest consumers of Russian oil and gas, has been particularly damaging. The share of Russia's pipeline gas in EU imports dropped from over 40% in 2021 to about 8% in 2023, leaving the country scrambling to find alternative buyers. While nations like China and India stepped in, they did so at discounted rates, significantly reducing the profit margins of these sales. The sanctions have also targeted high-tech exports, cutting Russia off from semiconductors, industrial machinery, and advanced electronics essential for industries like defense, aviation, and manufacturing. The ripple effect of these restrictions has left factories idle, projects abandoned, and innovation blocked. Sanctions may appear as numbers on a page, but their impact on Russia's economy is profound. They have created an environment of uncertainty and scarcity, forcing the nation to rely on outdated methods and less lucrative trade partnerships. Sanctions have not only strained Russia's resources, but also its economic stability, pushing it toward long-term stagnation. While sanctions have undoubtedly accelerated Russia's economic woes, the seeds of its decline were planted long before, or decades. Russia's economy has been heavily reliant on its energy sector, particularly oil and gas exports. Historically, these exports have constituted a significant portion of the country's total exports and federal budget revenues. According to the International Energy Agency, in 2021, oil and gas revenues made up 45% of Russia's federal budget. This heavy dependence on the energy sector has made Russia's economy vulnerable to fluctuations in global energy prices. Instead of reinvesting its energy wealth into technology, education, or infrastructure, the government chose short-term gains. Corruption and inefficiency plagued state-owned enterprises, and any attempts at reform were quashed by political agendas. As a result, when energy markets shifted or geopolitical tensions arose, the economy had no safety net. The situation worsened with the war in Ukraine. Military spending surged by 68% year-on-year, consuming funds that could have been used for public welfare or economic development. This unbalanced allocation of resources worsened an already fragile system, leaving the country ill-prepared to deal with sanctions or global market changes. The lack of foresight in diversifying the economy has made Russia a textbook example of mismanagement. Russia's geopolitical ambitions have been both its strength and its downfall. While the country has long sought to assert its influence on the global stage, its actions in Ukraine triggered a cascade of economic consequences. The invasion not only led to crippling sanctions, but also isolated Russia from major trade and investment partners. The federal budget deficit for the first half of 2023 reached approximately $28 billion, primarily due to soaring military expenditures and reduced energy revenues. This deficit is among the highest in recent years, highlighting the financial strain caused by elevated defense spending. Geopolitical tensions have also eroded international confidence in Russia's stability as an investment destination. Once seen as a lucrative market for global businesses, Russia is now largely avoided due to its unpredictable policies and economic isolation. This shift has left the nation increasingly reliant on a shrinking pool of allies, further narrowing its economic opportunities. For ordinary Russians, the economic decline isn't just a policy failure, it's a daily struggle. In 2024, Russia's economy has faced significant challenges, notably a sharp depreciation of the Russian ruble and escalating inflation. Since early August 2024, the ruble has lost over 24% of its value against the US dollar, reaching a 32-month low. This decline has been intensified by new sanctions and disruptions in foreign trade payments. Despite the central bank's efforts to curb inflation through monetary tightening, including raising the benchmark interest rate to its highest level since 2003, inflationary pressures persist. Analysts anticipate further weakening of the ruble, potentially reaching 115 to 120 per dollar by year's end, and are calling for government interventions to stabilize the market. The ruble's significant loss in value has further eroded savings, crushing the purchasing power of ordinary citizens. Many Russians now live paycheck to paycheck, with little hope of financial stability in the near future. The human cost of these choices is staggering. Living standards that were once a source of pride for the Kremlin are now in decline. While disposable incomes are rising, they are far outpaced by inflation, causing wages to lose value in real terms. By 2027, income growth is expected to drop to just 3.4%, while inflation continues to erode purchasing power. This decline means a significant reduction in living standards for ordinary Russians. Income growth that cannot keep up with soaring prices offers no real relief to those already struggling to make ends meet. Meanwhile, Russians face higher utility costs, rising food prices, and mounting debt as the state channels resources into a bloated defense sector. Putin's strategy is reminiscent of the Soviet era, where militarization ultimately outpaced economic sustainability. Will history repeat itself? Will Putin, like his Soviet predecessors, face the impossible choice between social peace, military spending, and economic stability? This is the crux of Russia's economic predicament, a nation caught between ambition and reality. Hurrah! Russia's unemployment rate stayed at a record low 2.4% in September 2024. But this doesn't mean the job market is healthy. The Ukraine conflict and the Kremlin's military mobilization have caused a severe labor shortage, with many working-age men either drafted or fleeing the country. This low unemployment hides the truth. Factories that rely on imported parts have closed or reduced their work, leaving many people with less work and lower pay. On top of that, skilled workers, especially in technology, are leaving Russia for better opportunities abroad, creating long-term problems for the economy. While the numbers look good on the surface, they mask the real struggles of workers and businesses across the country. In some cases, workers remain technically employed, but with drastically reduced hours and pay, a scenario that official unemployment figures do not reflect. For Russia's economy to recover, it needs major changes, like reducing its dependence on oil and gas, fighting corruption to attract foreign investment, and rebuilding relationships with other countries. History shows recovery is possible. After World War II, Germany introduced bold reforms and embraced innovation, which led to decades of prosperity. But under Vladimir Putin's leadership, these kinds of changes are highly unlikely. His focus on military power over economic progress keeps Russia stuck in its current crisis. To truly turn things around, Russia needs a major shift in leadership, one that prioritizes the people's needs and opens the door to real change. Russia's economic decline is both a sobering lesson in the consequences of over-reliance and mismanagement, and a reminder of the resilience and potential that still exist within the nation. Decades of leaning on energy exports, neglecting diversification, and pursuing geopolitical ambitions at the expense of economic stability have brought the country to a crossroads. International sanctions have deepened the crisis, but they are only part of a larger picture, a picture painted by systemic issues that have festered for years. The impacts of this economic turmoil go beyond the balance sheets. They are felt in the daily lives of millions of ordinary Russians who face rising prices, decreasing opportunities, and crumbling public services. Families struggle to make ends meet, professionals leave for better prospects abroad, and communities are left with fewer resources and little hope. The human cost of Russia's economic policies is impossible to ignore. Yet, even in the midst of this crisis, there is a path forward. Recovery is not only possible, it is necessary. By embracing structural reforms, investing in innovation and non-energy sectors, and mending international relationships, Russia could begin to rebuild its economy and restore its place on the global stage. But this will require difficult decisions, political will, and a willingness to put long-term stability over short-term gains. It will also demand a shift in priorities, focusing on the needs of citizens rather than military ambitions. The road ahead is uncertain, but history shows that even nations in deep economic decline can recover with the right strategies and leadership. Whether Russia can seize this opportunity remains to be seen. The world will watch closely, not just for its economic resurgence, but for what it reveals about the choices of its leaders and the resilience of its people. In the end, the question is not just whether Russia can rebuild its economy, it's whether it can redefine its identity as a nation. Will it continue on its current path, or will it rise from the ruins, stronger, more diverse, and more connected to the world than ever before? The answer to that question will shape Russia's future and its place in the global community. For the sake of its people and for the stability of the global economy, one can only hope the right path is chosen. Thanks for watching. Bye.